Hello, Steve Mills here, and it's great to be back sharing some tried, tested and proven ways. Today I've got a case study for you. It's a lovely example and it's absolutely true. It's an example of some work that I did back many years ago, but it's still as applicable today as it was then. And it's all about headlines, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about headlines before and how important they are in the world of marketing. There's an old saying in advertising that the headline is the advert for the advert, and the effectiveness of your headlines, be it on an advert or be it on I don't know, a web page, an email, a blog, when you stand up at a networking event, etc., etc. The effectiveness of this headline is around about 80% of the results that you're going to get. And yet I see so many people, writing an email, and they spend a load of time writing the email, getting it right, and it's about that long, and then they spend 2 minutes, oh yeah, what should we have as a headline? Oh, let's use that. And they've got the balance wrong. 80% of the time should be spent on writing or crafting the best headline, and 20% on the copy. Here's to my case study. Back years ago, in the good old days when people bought advertising space in glossy magazines, and I'm not suggesting you don't do that now, but when that was a popular thing to do. I worked for a company called Yovisa. They're a Spanish company. I just started working for them, and on my first day working for them, I was in their office, and we were going through all their current marketing, finding out what was working, what wasn't working, what we needed to get rid of, what we needed to improve, and what was working fantastically well. Well, the last thing was very short, what was working fantastically well. What we did find is we had several things that weren't working as effectively as they could. Now, one of which was an advert that was on the back of one of these glossy magazines. Now, the magazine was a magazine that was sent out to about 30,000 people who work for local authorities. It was a local authority based, one of these free magazines. It was, it was good quality, really nice magazine. And they'd taken a full page advert on the back page, the most expensive page on the magazine. Now, this page was costing them £2,000 a month. So to put the advert on the back of the mag, send it out to 30,000 people, £2,000. And they've been advertising on the back of this magazine now for 6 months. And so the total cost of that was £12,000. They'd spent £12,000. When I said to them, okay, so how much has this created so far? How much business have you won from this advert? They sort of looked round at each other, nothing, Steve. We haven't had anything. In fact, they said, to be honest, we haven't even had a lead. They've spent £12,000 and they've not had a lead. Now, that's not great, is it? And so I said, look, we got a choice here. We either give up, we either stop doing this advertising, or we improve it. And they said, well, what about brand awareness? I said, screw brand awareness. We're not Coca-Cola. Let's get some leads in. So let's work on what we can do to improve the performance of this advert. They looked at each other again and said, well, yeah, okay, let's do it. So I said, right, okay, let's have a look at the advert. So they pulled the advert out, and I said to them, look, are you well known in your industry? Would most people in local authorities know you even? They said, well, no. I said, well, why have you got a headline like this? Now, the headline said Yovisa, which was the name of the company, yeah? But that meant nothing to anybody. Nobody had ever even heard of the company. So it meant nothing to anybody in the local authority market. So I said, I think you need to change the headline. They said, well, what about, branding? I said, well, again, screw branding. Do you want business or not? I said, tell me, what does your product really do? What does it do for local authorities? And they said, well, you know, what it does really is it saves them about 25% of their recycling costs. What they had was one of these, imagine a massive machine, you know, literally about, I don't know, 15 yards long and about 5 yards wide, where all the, you know, the recycling goes in, you know, the bottles and the cans and the paper and the plastics and all that sort of stuff. And basically this machine sent it off in all directions. It divided it up and it saved it being done manually or whatever. I'm not an expert in that, obviously, but that's basically what the machine did. And it saved local authorities 25% of those recycling costs. So I said, well, let's just test this, shall we? Why don't we change the headline from Yovisa to something as simple as local authorities save 25% on recycling? So they weren't that sure about it, but we put that advert into the next publication. Cut a very long story short, they got 5 leads as a result of that. Of those 5 leads, 2 of them turned into a sale. Of those 2 sales, each sale was for £2.5 million. 2.5 million. So it made them £5 million in the first month of changing that headline. Now that took me about 2 minutes to figure out. Now, not because I'm so great, just because I understand that by changing each and every element of your marketing, sometimes, not always, because you could have come up with a headline that was worse than the one, although I doubt it actually in this case, but you can change your headline and it'd be worse than the one that you've already got. But the important thing is to test different ways of marketing in order to improve performance. Does that make sense? I really hope it does, because it is really so incredibly powerful. It's not always going to make you 5 million, don't get me wrong, but by changing something as simple as the headline or the picture or use of video or the words or the call to action or the location of an article, the target market, etc., you can often double, triple, quadruple, or even 10x the results that you're getting. So back to my story. Yovisa changed that. They made £5 million in the first month. I don't think I was charging them enough, and you know, it should have been on commission, shouldn't I? I really should. And you know, and that obviously they ran that headline for many years, and it was hugely successful. So you know, my question for you this time is, what's your version of that? What could you test? Are there any headlines you could change in your marketing? Now, I'll give you one example. If you've got a page on your website called Our Services, can't you think of anything more interesting than Our Services? Come on, that's like Yovisa, isn't it? Our Services, Our Services. Even if you changed it to accountancy services or landscape gardening services, you know, something like, you know, marketing services. It's probably better than Our Services, and I'm sure you could do better than marketing services. You know, lead generation or generating more leads is a lot better than Our Services. I'm sure you understand, because it's all about what's in it for them. It's not about us, Our Services. Anyway, I'm coming to the end of the video now, so if you need any more help, get in touch. I'd love to offer you a free marketing review meeting. If you want to book that, go to our website, stevemills.co, and get that booked in, and I look forward to meeting you very soon. Thanks very much for listening.